Peace, Israel, and Yah bless. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. The title of today's lesson is Adultery. Once again, today's lesson is entitled Adultery. Most of our people have no idea, and most people, not just Israelites, are unaware of exactly what adultery is. So on this lesson, I'm going to take you through the scrolls that you may clearly understand that adultery is an abomination before the Most High and it is not to be done. And that you clearly understand what adultery is and what it isn't. Because many of our people are unclear about this thing. Not only just that form of adultery, sexual debauchery and things of that nature. We're going to cover some of the scrolls that we may understand clearly what adultery is, and that also that you are to understand clearly that you're not to remarry your ex-wife. This thing ought not to be done. So when we're finished with this lesson, these things should be clearly understood, for I will clearly lay them out for you that you may understand it. Once again, brace yourselves. Tighten up your jaws. Do not turn to the left or to the right, or you will get hit in the mouth. We're to walk the straight and narrow way of the Most High's commandments. We're not to deviate to the right hand or to the left hand. We are to walk the straight and narrow way. All right. Discussing adultery. We will start off at Leviticus chapter 20. Leviticus chapter 20, and we will start off at verse 10. We will read from verse 10 through verse 27. Of Leviticus chapter 20. And verse 10 reads, And the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. So do understand that once you commit adultery, it is a death penalty for that. You are to be killed. That way whoredom does not spread throughout the land. And you are not to know of someone committing this type of behavior, and you are to turn a blind eye to it, because once you do, you are an accessory, and the Most High will turn his face against that man and his house. Why? For you are seeing an injustice being done. You are seeing a sin, i.e., a crime being committed, and you're acting like you don't see it. So because of this thing, the Most High will turn his face against a man and that man's house if he's failing to acknowledge that there's another man over here doing wrong and he's aware of it. So, what is adultery? Before we go to verse 11. If a man is married and he lays down with a woman that is unmarried, that is not adultery. Let me say that again. If a man is married and he lays down with a woman that is not married and she is not engaged. This is a single woman. She's not engaged to anyone and she's not married to anyone. If a married man lies down with her, it is not adultery. However, the fact that he has humbled her and he has lie in the bed with her, i.e. have sexual intercourse, according to this law, he is responsible to her all of her days. He is not to just run through her and just disregard her. He has a responsibility to her for the rest of her days. She is technically his wife. Matter of fact, she is. Not technically, she is his wife. And that is to keep the men from running through the women of Zion and causing our daughters to be whores. And causing our women to be whores by multiplying wives unto ourselves and not taking care of them. So do understand, a married man can have more than one wife, or a man can have more than one wife, but he is to be responsible to all of them for the rest of his days. Verse 11, And the man that lieth with his father's wife has uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. This speaks to sexual debauchery once again. You are not to lie down with your father's wife at all. You have uncovered your father's nakedness. And since you are nothing but your father in this generation, you have therefore uncovered your own nakedness, and certainly for that you will pay. Verse 12, And if a man lie with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall surely be put to death. They have wrought confusion. Their blood shall be upon them. So you've got some men in the house of Israel that are so wicked, they will lay down with the wife of their own son. And once again, once you do such a thing, you're harming your own soul. For your son is nothing but you in the next generation. It's like doing harm unto your own self. Not only that, you are destroying the nation. Okay, so these are things that ought not to be done. You're not to lie down with your son's girlfriend, with your son's wife, with your son's fiance. This ought not to be done. Verse 12. If a man also lie with mankind, as he lieth with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. Homosexuality, disgusting behavior. At no time should a man lie down in the bed with another man in the same sexual manner that he would a woman. This thing ought not to be done. And this man is to be put to death, both of them once caught. This is the law of the Most High. That way, this disgusting behavior does not spread throughout the congregation. It is to be punished. And no man is to turn his eye or turn his face away and act like he didn't see it and he didn't know that this thing took place. Verse 14. And if a man take a wife and her mother, it is wickedness. They shall be burnt with fire, both he and they, that there be no wickedness among you. So some men in the house of Israel think it's some badge of honor to lay down with a woman and lay down with her mother, or to lay down with a woman and lay down with her daughter. This is the type of sick behavior that we have in the midst of us. And it has to be cleaned up. And it's going to be the men that's going to clean this up. The men are the leaders of any nation. In other words, the man must not be afraid to punish another man and to enforce judgment. We have been lacking backbone. We've been lacking conviction. We've been lacking righteousness. So once we understand what righteousness is, we are to enforce righteous judgment. Irregardless of whether our father has run amok of the law, our sons have run amok of the law, or we ourselves have ran amok of the Most High's law. We are to enforce righteous judgment in the midst of us and hold each other accountable via punishment. So we're not to allow any wickedness in the midst of us by allowing a man to lay down with a woman and to lay down with a woman's mother at the same time. These are disgusting behaviors, and some of you are out here guilty of it. Verse 15, and if a man lie with a beast, he shall surely be put to death, and he shall slay the beast. Bestiality, something that's been big in the Roman Catholic Church. They are full of sexual debauchery, laying down with children, laying down with animals, men laying down with each other. So therefore, it is no surprise to see the same type of deviancy take place within the Christian church, all the denominations of the Christian church. For the Christian church is nothing but a spinoff of the Roman Catholic Church. It's the same exact thing. So you're not to lie down with a beast. A couple of years ago in Atlanta, a woman had a young man, a young Israelite, taking care of her dogs, only to discover that this young man, this young brother, was actually having sexual intercourse with her dogs. In the days of old, him and those dogs were to be killed. This is the sickness that we have in the midst of Israel. Verse 16, and if a woman approaches unto any beast and lie down thereto, thou shalt kill the woman and the beast. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. So any man that lies down with a beast, any woman that lies down with a beast, both of them are to be put to death. Both the woman and the beast, and the man and the beast. This is known as bestiality. This is a no-no. Verse 17. And if a man shall take his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, and see her nakedness, and she see his nakedness, it is a wicked thing. They shall be cut off in the sight of their people. He hath uncovered his sister's nakedness. He shall bear his iniquity. At no time are you to lay down with your half sister, whether it be your mother's daughter, or your father's daughter. She is near kin unto you. You are not to expose her nakedness in any way, shape, or form. And many of us, some of us have done this wickedness. You are not to lie down with any of your siblings. That includes what you would call half siblings. It is not to be done. We have just read that. Verse 18. And if a man shall lie with a woman having her sickness, if this woman is on a menstrual cycle, you are not to touch her. She is unclean. Those are the days of her separation. She is not to touch you in any way, shape, or form, in any sexual manner, period. You are not to touch her, and she's not to touch you. Once again, verse 18. And if a man shall lie with a woman having her sickness, her menstrual cycle, and shall uncover her nakedness, he has discovered her fountain, that's blood, and she hath uncovered the fountain of her blood, and both of them shall be cut off from among their people. So we are to understand that we're not to lay down with a woman in any way, shape, or form if that woman is on her menstrual cycle. This thing ought not to be done. If you've been doing it, you're to stop. And you're to repent for what you have done and not to do that thing anymore. It's really that simple. Verse 19. And thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy mother's sister. You're not to lie down in the bed with your aunt in a sexual fashion, nor of thy father's sister, for he uncovereth his near kin. They shall bear their iniquity. You're not to lie down with your aunt at all, to uncover the nakedness of your mother's sister, nor of thy father's sister. She is your aunt. It is not to be done. Verse 20. And if a man shall lie with his uncle's wife, he hath uncovered his uncle's nakedness. They shall bear their sin. They shall die childless. You're not to lie down with your uncle's wife. You're not to lay down with the wife of any man, period. That includes the fiance of any man, period. It'll bring you more trouble than it is worth. Verse 21. And if a man shall take his brother's wife, it is an unclean thing. Some of the men of Israel think it's some kind of a game or a gag to see if he could pull his brother's wife, his brother's girlfriend, or his friend's wife or friend's girlfriend. And this can do nothing but cause you harm and headache and trouble. Okay, the Most High will trouble you in your house once you do this. Once again, let's read verse 21. And if a man shall take his brother's wife, it is an unclean thing. He has uncovered his brother's nakedness. They shall be childless. Verse 21. Ye shall therefore keep all my statutes and all my judgments, and do them, that the land whither I bring you to dwell therein spew you not out. So once we decided that we were going to go against any of these laws that we were given, the land, it defiles the land. When you're living on this land and you decide you want to do all of these manners of abominations before the Most High, the land has to bear the iniquity of you walking and treading upon it, doing all of these evil things. And so therefore the land will spew you out. The land will vomit you out, meaning it's not going to rain on that land, meaning the land is not going to yield its increase. When you plant your seeds and you plant your crops, you're not going to get a great return. Many times there will be no rain, so therefore the growth of your crops is going to be stunted. You're going to have a lesser yield. The land is going to starve you to death. It's pretty much what's going to happen. So because you have polluted the land and you're treading upon the land and you're treading upon it in violation of the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts, the land is going to spew you up out of there. It's really that simple. Verse 23. And ye shall not walk in the manners of the nation which I cast out before you, for they committed all these things, and therefore I abhorred them. Therefore I hated them. So this is to let you know that the Most High's law is the universal law. Whether you know it or not, your ignorance does not excuse you from judgment. So these seven nations that were before us in the land of Canaan, they committed all of these things, and the Most High hated them for it. So therefore he warned us. And he was redundant with his warnings by waking up early and sending his prophets. Hey, look, do not do these things right here. For the people before you did these things before mine eyes. These are abominations unto me. I'm kicking them out the land and putting you in the land because they have done these things. So unless you want to suffer the same fate as those before you, don't do this. And you know what we did? We decided we were going to do it anyway and try the Most High. And it has not worked well for us. Verse 23. And ye shall not walk in the manners of the nations. Well, I've already read that. So the Most High made it plain that the nations before us committed this stuff, committed all these abominations before him. Therefore, he hated them, kicked them out. All right, so therefore, they had the law. All right, and that's why they got kicked out, because they had rules too. The Most High is not just making you and just not giving you any rules. I don't care who you are, there are rules to live by. These laws are to be abided by every nation and every person breathing upon the face of the earth. Verse 24, but I have said unto you, ye shall inherit their land, and I will give it unto you to possess it, a land that flows with milk and honey. I am Yah your strength, which have separated you from other people. We are not all the same. The house of Israel has been separated unto the Most High to be his and his alone. We are to be above all the nations of the earth. We are those ordained to bring forth the Most High's righteousness to the nations. That is his law. Verse 25. Ye shall therefore put difference between clean beast and unclean. Okay, so we're to make a difference. Okay, we're to put a difference between the clean beast and unclean, and between the unclean fowls and clean. Ye shall not make your souls abominable by beast. Our souls being our bodies. We're not to make our bodies abominable by eating the pig, eating which is the swine, eating the crabs, the lobster, the shellfish, the scallops, and all these other unclean things, the catfish, etc. Okay, some of the things that the biggest consumers of seafood in America happen to be the house of Israel, and all that they're consuming is the unclean foods, and no wonder why we have all types of ailments as far as our health goes. So the Most High said we are to make a difference between the clean and the unclean. We can read in Leviticus chapter 11, he makes it plain exactly what we are to eat and what we are not to eat. So we are not to make our souls abominable by beast or by fowl or by any manner of living thing that creepeth upon the ground, which I have separated from you as unclean. So you just can't put anything in your mouth because you're hungry. You are to discern between the clean and the unclean. And ye shall be holy unto me, for I, Yah, am holy, and have severed you from other people, that ye should be mine. So the house of Israel, you are to be holy, because the Most High is holy, because he has separated us to be holy unto him. He has separated us from all the other nations upon the face of the earth. There is no such thing as equality in the midst of the nations. Does not exist. A man also or a woman that hath a familiar spirit. These are your witch doctors, your tarot card readers, etc. Or that is a wizard, shall surely be put to death. They shall stone them with stones. Their blood shall be upon them. So now, many of our people are beginning to understand that they're the house of Israel, and there's this new awakening as the Most High pours out his spirit upon us. So many of them are trying to lure you in. They will mention the Most High this and the Most High that, and then before you know it, they're talking about chakras. They're talking about metaphysics. They're speaking about tarot cards, about talking to your ancestors, and a bunch of other nonsense. So we are to be aware of those who are of familiar spirits, wizardry, witchcraft, and all manner of things that we were instructed clearly to stay away from. So sometimes they lower us in to the front door with one thing, and then all of a sudden the whole agenda changes to tarot card reading and speaking to dead ancestors and a bunch of other nonsense. And our people are falling into these traps, and we're to be aware of them. So we understand clearly by reading Leviticus chapter 20 that we're not to lie down with another man's wife. We're not to lie down with a woman that is betrothed, meaning she's engaged to another man. We're not to lie down with our uncle's wife, with our father's wife. We're not to lie down with our sister, with our half-sister, or anything of the sort. Any woman that is kin unto us, we're not to lie down with sexually at all, ever. Any woman that is married to a man or engaged to a man, you are not to touch, period, in a sexual manner. You are to leave her alone. For surely if you do, in the days of old, you're a dead man. Today the Most High is going to plague you and plague your house. And he's going to plague her and plague her house as well. So it'll be nothing but trouble that will come from these behaviors. If you have done these behaviors, be thankful that you have not been killed, but you have been plagued. So in order to get these plagues off of you, you're to simply to turn, face Jerusalem, lift your hands in prayer, acknowledge your faults, and from thence do them no more. And the Most High is forever. He is merciful. All right, but the guilty does not get away unpunished. He may not come down on you as hard because you may have been or you are of a contrite spirit. But irregardless of that, any of us that have transgressed the Most High's laws, we have to pay. Okay? So there is no the wicked just getting away scot-free with doing wickedness. It does not happen. And so therefore we have been punished even at times when we're not even aware of why we're being punished. But if you look back at some of the hardships that you've had in your life, look at the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, precepts, and see what was going on with you and around you at that time. And then you will see where the Most High's laws make sense. Now let's turn to, so let's stay in the book of Leviticus. We're going to go to Leviticus chapter 18. And we will read all of chapter 18. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 1 reads, And Yah spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am Yah your strength. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do. Don't do the things that you were doing in Egypt. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, don't do the things that the people in the land of Canaan are doing. Whither I bring you, shall ye not do, neither shall ye walk in their ordinances. Don't follow anything these Canaanites are doing. Verse 4, Ye shall do my judgments, and keep mine ordinances, to walk therein. I am Yah your strength. Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them. I am Yah. None of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him. Once again, we've just discussed this. Any woman that is a relative of yours, near of kin, you are not to touch that woman, to uncover their nakedness. That goes for your aunt, your uncle's wife, your sister, your half-sister, your brother's wife, etc., etc., etc. Verse 7, The nakedness of thy father or the nakedness of thy mother shalt thou not uncover. She is thy mother. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. You are not to lie down with your mother. That is disgusting just to even think about that. Verse 8, The nakedness of thy father's wife shalt thou not uncover. It is thy father's nakedness. Your father's nakedness, you are nothing but your father in the next generation. That's to uncover your own nakedness. This is disgusting behavior. We have read this before in Leviticus chapter 20. This speaks to the fact that the Most High is redundant. The Most High is consistent. It's not a I told you one time and that's it. I continue to send my prophets, waking up early and sending them, and they're bringing the same consistent message, and you consistently go against the grain. Therefore, he will consistently bust our heads in these nations. Verse 9, The nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father, or daughter of thy mother, whether she be born at home or born abroad, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover. Meaning, if your father had a daughter, and she was not born in your house, was not raised with you, your father had a daughter that was born in some strange nation, and you understand that that is your sister, at no time you are to lay down and have any type of sexual intercourse or anything of the sort with that woman. She is your near kin. These things ought not to be done. Verse 11, The nakedness of thy father's wife, thy father's wife's daughter, begotten of thy father. She is thy sister. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. This is your half sister. It's not to be done. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's sister. That's your own. She is thy father's near kinswoman. You're not to lay down with your aunt. We discussed this in the last chapter. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy mother's sister, for she is thy mother's near kinswoman. This is your own. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's brother. That's your uncle. You're not to lie down with your uncle's wife. Thou shalt not approach to his wife. She is thine aunt. Verse 15. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy daughter-in-law. Some of these sick old men want to lay it out with their son's wives or their son's fiance, and do not understand that this just brings all types of curses upon their heads. The wickedness of the men of Israel. She is thy son's wife. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Verse 16. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy brother's wife. It is thy brother's nakedness. And your brother and you are pretty much the same guy. You're your fathers. Both of you are nothing but seeds of your father in this generation. You're one and the same. Verse 17. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter. Some men think it's cool to lay down with a woman and then lay down with a daughter. You're cursing your own soul. Neither shalt thou take her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter to uncover her nakedness, for they are her near kinswoman. It is wickedness. So if you're dating a woman and you figure, you know what, I'm going to lay down with this woman's daughter, or the woman's daughter has a daughter, you decide to lay down with her, which is laying down with a woman. Let's say you're dating a woman and you decide you're going to lay down with that woman's granddaughter. These are all wickedness. Okay, so if you're dating a woman, you're not to lie down with that woman and her daughter, or you're not to lie down with the woman's daughter. In other words, the woman you're dating, you can't lay down with that woman's granddaughter. Hope that's clear. It is wickedness. For her granddaughter is her near kinswoman. And that's why you ought not to do it, and you ought not to do it because the Most High said you shouldn't do it. Verse 18. Neither shalt thou take a wife to her sister, to vex her, to uncover her nakedness, besides the other in her lifetime. Okay, so you're not to marry two sisters. That is a no-no. Okay, because just think of it, we've just discussed this. If you marry a woman, any of her female relatives are her near kinswoman. That includes her sister, her mother, her grandmother, her aunt, etc., etc. You're not to lie down with the kinswoman of the woman that you're dealing with. And that includes the nearest of her kin or kinswoman would be her sister or her mother. You're not to lie down with any of her kinswoman, period. All right. Let me see where we are. Verse 19. Also, thou shalt not approach unto a woman to uncover her nakedness, as long as she is put apart for her uncleanness. Verse 19. Put apart for her uncleanness. The woman is on a menstrual cycle. She's set apart for a week, and some women's menstrual cycle can last 3 days, 5 days, 7 days. Just all depends, 2 weeks. But while she is unclean, you are not to approach unto a woman while she is unclean. She is not to touch you in any way, shape, or form, and you're not to allow it. Once again, to walk in the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts requires a disciplined man and a disciplined woman. So if you do not have self-discipline, then when the Most High put these curses on you, he will be disciplining you. In other words, punishing you. So you have a few ways to approach this. You can hear it and do it, or you can hear it, disregard it, do it, and pay. My granny had a saying when I was a child: those who do not hear will feel. So you can either hear the words of this law and do it, or you can feel the wrath of the Most High when he puts his punishments upon you for going against the grain. So those are your choices. Like Moshe told us in the wilderness, these laws are your life. So do understand that. All right. See where we are. We've dealt with you should not approach unto a woman when she's during the time of her uncleanness. That's verse 19, verse 20. Moreover, thou shalt not lie carnally with thy neighbor's wife, to defile thyself with her. Not only are you not to lie down with your neighbor's wife, you're not to lie down with anyone's wife. Verse 21. And thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of Yah. I am your strength. We are not to take our sons and our daughters and to baptize them onto JC or whomever else. No Levite has ever baptized an Israelite, ever. This is you putting your seed through the fire, and you'll be punished for these things. Verse 22, thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination. The nations are pushing this disgusting behavior to where we have men laying down with men. They're having sexual body parts surgery, allowing kids to switch their genders. They're teaching all manner of abomination in these schools. These are your Christians doing this, for they have always done this. This is your Roman Catholic doing this, because they've always done this. Our enemies are showing themselves to be exactly who they are. They're liars. And they walk contrary to the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts. So you are to ensure that as early as your sons and daughters, to where they can speak and understand the language of the nation that you're in, you are to teach them as early as 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 that these are unacceptable behaviors. You are to read them this law and explain to them that they are to have wives. And that is the only way that they can possibly reproduce themselves, i.e. have children. That way, by the time they get into the classroom and they start teaching them that it's okay for two men to lay down in the bed or two women to lay down in the bed, which is equally disgusting, they know the difference between clean and unclean, between wickedness and righteousness, what is right and what is wrong. And they will not be sexually confused. Verse 23. Neither shalt thou lie with any beast to defile thyself therewith. Neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereto. It is confusion. Some of the European nations are trying to have it to where they can actually do this thing, lie down with a beast. So just as you're seeing right now, where you have men talking about this is my wife and it's a man, or vice versa. And many of these companies are actually acknowledging these quote unquote unions. All right. I've said in times past, don't be surprised when they pass these laws for them to marry these children, because they're laying down with them anyway. Don't be surprised when they pass laws that you can marry your dog, because they're doing this bestiality anyway. It's just not in plain sight. They're going to bring before you all of their wickedness. They're going to prove to you that they're liars. They're going to prove to you that they are idolaters. They're going to prove to you that they walk contrary in every way, shape, and form to the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts. They're doing it every day. Some of you are just not aware of what you're looking at. Verse 24. Defile not ye yourselves in any of these things, for in all these the nations are defiled, which I cast out before you. So the 7 nations that the Most High casted out the land of Canaan before us, they were doing all of these things. But not only that, in the very nations when he cast us out of Canaan and casted us to the four corners of the earth, those nations in the four corners of the earth are doing the same exact thing as those in the land of Canaan did. Verse 25, and the land is defiled when you are treading upon that land, doing all these abominations before the Most High. On that land mass, that land is programmed to spew you out. Therefore, I do visit the iniquity thereof upon it, and the land itself vomiteth out her inhabitants. The land gonna spew you out. The land gonna vomit you out of there. The land is not gonna grow any food, won't rain, it's gonna force you off of it. So once you decide that you're gonna walk against the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts, do what you want, commit all the abominations that the Most High finds to be absolutely unacceptable and disgusting, whatever land mass that you're on is going to spew you out because you're defiling the land. And the Most High owns the land, not just the land of Israel. He owns everything on the earth. And these laws are universal, whether you Israel or not. Verse 20, ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and shall not commit any of these abominations. All that I have just read from the time this video started are all abominations unto the Most High. Neither any of your own nation, nor any stranger that sojourneth among you. Any stranger that's in the midst of the house of Israel, you are to obey the same laws that we do. You don't come in the midst of us and figure you're going to do your own thing. It doesn't work that way. Verse 27, for all these abominations have the men of the land done, which were before you, and the land is defiled. Verse 28, that the land spew not you out also. So to make sure that the land don't spit you out, like the land spit out the Canaanites and all the other 7 nations before you got here. Okay? When you defile it. So when you defile the land gonna spit you out, as it spewed out the nations that were before you. So the land spewed out the nations that were before us. Why? Because they were foul. They were committing all the abominations that we've been reading for the last 37 minutes. Verse 29, for whosoever shall commit any of these abominations, even the souls that commit them shall be cut off from among their people. Now, I'm going to come back to this after I'm finished reading verse 30. Therefore shall ye keep my ordinances, and ye commit not any of these abominable customs, which were committed before you, and that ye defile not yourself therein. I am Yah, your strength. So we're being warned in verse 30 that we should not commit any of these abominations, abominable customs, because these are customs of the people. All right, the Catholic customs is abominations. They're accustomed to laying down with little boys, little girls. They're accustomed to bestiality. They're accustomed to worshiping idols. All of these are abominable customs. So we are in the midst of these many nations walking after abominable customs, and we're not to do it. Now, it says here in verse 29, even the souls that commit them shall be cut off from among their people. So if we're walking in let's say there's 100 of us living in a community, right? And we're all walking after the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts. Let's say we're doing the things that are right in the sight of the Most High. And this one man decides, you know what, he's going to go lay down with another man's wife. And the rest of the men and the women of that community found out that this man had done such a thing. Now, in this present day in town, we just can't just bury them in the ground up to their neck and go upside their heads with cinder blocks. That would be a good way to get it done and make a point. So we just can't just get them like we could in the days of old. But what we can do, we can recognize that this man has wrought folly in the house of Israel. And because there's 100 of us here, the Most High is going to bring the wrath on the whole congregation. So currently we can't just straight up get him. But what we can do, we can certainly ostracize him. We can cut him off and not deal with him at all. Cut him off. Cut him and his whole house off. He'll be forced to relocate and go live with some other people. Because if we're going to walk in the laws of the Most High, that means certainly two cannot walk together lest they be agreed. So we can't walk with the Most High in righteousness and be holding on to a brother that's walking in unrighteousness. That doesn't work. So this is where the great separation and the great divide takes place. If I'm going to walk with the Most High, then I got to cut you off if you're not. And so therefore, when you read about someone being cut off from the midst of his people, is the whole congregation turning their backs against him because he or she or they have chosen to walk contrary to the Most High's law, statute, judgment, and precepts. Therefore, the ones that are walking in righteousness, they can't fool with you. And they're going to cut you off. And therefore, you're in no man's land. And many of our men, as well as our women, do not have the guts to enforce righteous judgment. So what do? They are a party to wickedness. And though they may not themselves be actively doing it, they are accepting of it. Therefore, their punishments are the same. So many of the hardships that we're facing, in some cases, we are doing the offense. And in many cases, we are accepting and turning a blind eye to an offense that's right in front of our face, that we are aware of, that we are a party to. And so therefore, once you see this wickedness and you don't punish it, then the Most High turns his face against that man and his house. And so therefore, that's the source of your plight. That is the source of your troubles. All right, let's turn to Numbers. Numbers chapter 5, and we're going to verse 12. Numbers chapter 5. Numbers chapter 5, we'll read verse 12 through 31. Numbers chapter 5, verse 12 reads, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, If any man's wife go aside and commit a trespass against him. Verse 12 simply means any man that's married to a woman, that's his wife, and she decides to go have sexual intercourse with another man that is not him, that is not her husband. So this is an adulteress. When a woman decides she's going to go have sex with another man, and that man that she's having sex with is not her husband. That's what verse 12 is speaking to. Verse 13. And a man lie with her carnally, and it be hid from the eyes of her husband, and be kept close, and she be defiled, and there be no witnesses against her, neither she be taken with the matter. What does this mean? A woman is married. She goes and lies down with another man. She's committed an abomination. She's committed whoredom. She has committed adultery. Not only has she done it, the man that she lied down with, he did it also. But in some cases, maybe the man that she got in bed with, maybe he didn't even know. That's why it's important to do your due diligence, because you may make the mistake to lie down with a woman, and this woman is married and she's been lying to you and you don't know. Get you killed. So this woman lied down, she's married, goes and lies down with another man, but it's done, the thing is done in secret. No one knows. Her husband, he don't know. All right. Verse 14. And the spirit of jealousy come upon him. So the husband is like, I'm thinking something is wrong here with this woman. She's acting strange. Things are different. I'm thinking that there's another man in the mix, but I can't prove it. I can't prove it because the thing was done in secret. I can't prove it, but I can sure feel it. And I can see that things are certainly different in her demeanor. All right. Now, back to verse 14. And the spirit of jealousy come upon him. The husband is like, something is wrong. He's beginning to be jealous. And he be jealous of his wife, and she be defiled. Or if the spirit of jealousy come upon him, and he be jealous of his wife, and she be not defiled. So Defiled means that she has simply laid down with another man other than him. So he's feeling jealous, but that could just be a feeling. Maybe it's just that he's feeling a bit jealous and nothing happened, or nothing is happening. And maybe he's feeling this way, and that feeling is justified because something is happening. He just can't put a finger on it, and he can't prove it. All right, verse 15. Then shall the man bring his wife unto the priest, and he shall bring her offering for her, the 10th part of an ephah of barley meal. He shall pour no oil upon it, nor put frankincense thereon, for it is an offering of jealousy, an offering of memorial, bringing iniquity to remembrance. All right. So what is this? This is known as an offering of jealousy. The man is jealous. He's thinking something is going on between his wife and some other man. He don't know who the man is. He don't know what's going on. He's just got a feeling, his gut feeling something is wrong. So nowadays, you'd have to hire a private investigator, i.e. that show called Cheaters. Get a private investigator, follow her around to see exactly what's taking place. But in the days of old, we didn't have to do all that. We didn't need a private investigator. We didn't need any cameras. If you sense something was going on between your wife, who is married onto you, and another man, and it was going on out of your sight and you couldn't prove it, then you simply took her up to one of the sons of Levi, took her up to one of the sons of Aaron, take her up to the priest. And right then and there, we'll know exactly what time it is. Now let's read how that whole thing transpires. All right, verse 16. And the priest shall bring her near and set her before Yah. So she's in the presence of the Most High, this tabernacle, which means whatever it is you're doing, it's coming to light. Verse 17. And the priest shall take holy water in an earthen vessel, and of the dust that is in the floor of the tabernacle, and the priest shall take and put it into the water. So the priest has this holy water. The man comes up, him and his wife, coming before the Most High. She's got to have something on her head. Her head is wrapped up. The man is dressed in his fine garments. He brought his little offering, right? And the priest has this holy water. He takes the dust from the floor of the tabernacle, puts in this water, makes it up real good. All right, verse 18. And the priest shall set the woman before Yah and uncover the woman's head. Took a little head covering off and put the offering of memorial in her hands, which is the jealousy offering. And the priest shall have in his hand the bitter water that causes the curse. So the man came, right? So what the man has is the 10th part of an ephah of barley. All right? He's not going to put any oil on it, nor put any frankincense on it. It's just that ephah of barley meal. So she's holding that in her hand. All right, that's the offering that her husband brought. Meanwhile, the son of Aaron, whoever the priest is at the time, he's going to take that holy water that he has, take some dust from the tabernacle, put it in there, mix it up. And then he's going to let her drink that thing. And after she's finished drinking that, we're going to find out exactly what was transpiring. We may not know with whom, but it's not going to even matter at that point. All right. Verse 19. And the priest shall charge her by an oath, and say unto the woman, if no man have lain with thee, and if thou hast not gone aside to uncleanness with another instead of thy husband, be thou free from this bitter water that causes the curse. So the priest is telling her, look, if you are indeed innocent, and you have not gone aside and laid down with another man other than your husband, and you have done a wicked thing, you have done something that is an abomination before the Most High. If you haven't done these things, then you'll be free of this. When you drink this water, nothing is going to bother you. You'll be just fine. It will be proven that this is just a husband who's been jealous, and his jealousy has been misplaced. But if this thing is true, then we've got a whole different matter altogether. All right. Verse 20. But if thou hast gone aside to another instead of thy husband, And if thou be defiled, meaning you did indeed lay down with another man sexually other than your husband, and some man have lain with thee besides thine husband, then the priest shall charge the woman with an oath of cursing, and the priest shall say unto the woman, Yah made thee a curse and an oath among thy people, when Yah doth make thy thigh to rot and thy belly to swell. So the woman's thigh, her leg, is going to start to rot, and her belly is going to start to swell up. Can you imagine what that would look like? Verse 22. And this water that causes the curse shall go into thy bowels to make thy belly to swell, and thy thigh to rot. And the woman shall say, it says amen on here, but when you start talking this amen stuff, you're talking about amen ra, something that's used by these, that was used in Egypt. So in places where I see this, where you see amen or amen or whatever you may want to say it, I will simply say praise Yah. Okay. Verse 23. And the priest shall write these curses in a book, and he shall blot them out with the bitter water. And he shall cause the woman to drink the bitter water that causes the curse. And the water that causes the curse shall enter into her and become bitter. Then the priest shall take the jealousy offering out of the woman's hand, and shall wave the offering before Yah, and offer it upon the altar. So he takes the body from the woman's hand and puts it upon the altar. And the priest shall take a handful of the offering, even a memorial thereof, and burn it upon the altar, and afterwards shall cause the woman to drink the water. So the woman's going to drink this water after he's done doing all of these things. And when he has made her to drink the water, then it shall come to pass that if she be defiled, if she lay down with another man, and have done trespass against her husband, that the water that causes the curse shall enter into her and become bitter, and her belly shall swell, and her thighs shall rot, and the woman shall be a curse among her people. And if the woman be not defiled, meaning she didn't do any of these things, she did not go against the Most High's law, she did not defile herself by laying down with another man and disgrace her husband and brought curses upon her house, she didn't do any of these things. This was just her husband being a little jealous, misplaced jealousy, so to speak. This is verse 28. And if the woman be not defiled, but be clean, then she shall be free and shall conceive seed, meaning she'll be able to have children, and her life will continue as before. Verse 29. This is the law of jealousies, when a wife goeth aside to another instead of her husband and is defiled. So there's a law for this. All right. Or when the spirit of jealousy cometh upon him, and he be jealous over his wife, and shall set the woman before Yah, and the priest shall execute upon her all this law. Then shall the man be guiltless from iniquity, and this woman shall bear her iniquity. So you're not to, if you're a female, if you're a woman, and you're married, and you have gone and lied down with a man other than your husband, and this thing be not known, and you think you're getting away with something? No. Most High is plaguing you and plaguing your house. So if you're having problems and you've done this, suggestion, find out where Jerusalem is from where you live. Get upon your knees. Lift your hands in prayer and acknowledge what you have done in violating and doing violence unto the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. Ask forgiveness for what you have done and do it absolutely no more. And maybe the Most High will have mercy upon you and upon your house and take some of your troubles away. Some of you women have done this thing and found yourself pregnant for another man. And then after you did that, you found it difficult to have any other relationship with another man. And then you found difficulty with raising that child for a man that you had other than your husband. So when the Most High plagues you, he plagues your house. We have read before where the Most High will plague you to the third and fourth generation. So when you start having children of whoredoms, i.e. a woman, goes and have a baby with a man other than her husband, that's a child of whoredom. Some of you are children of whoredoms. All types of problems in your life. And a woman that does this, all types of problems in her life. And the man that lies down with another man's wife, he got all kind of problems too. So, if you've made these errors, turn, face Jerusalem, lift your hands in prayer and cry out unto the Most High. And yeah, he's going to stick it to you. Chances are he's already been sticking it to you. Some of you women have done this thing and brought your husband some AIDS, and brought him some hepatitis, and brought him some herpes, and brought some gonorrhea, and brought some syphilis, and brought him a baby from another man. So when you see these, what they call sexual diseases, these are nothing but plagues for sexual promiscuity. So the Most High going to get you either way. He's going to get you, he's going to get your house, he's going to get your children. So there's no escaping any of this. So if you have done any of these things, you better make sure that you turn and pour out your heart to the Most High, and that you never do this again, and that he may have mercy upon you. And from the minute you decide to turn back from wickedness onto his righteousness, that he will take the wickedness that you have done and the punishments that you have endured, and that will be time served. And now you're going forward with a clean slate. So if you've done this thing and you weren't in the days of old, you didn't get killed. So you have been spared in that regard. But in order to have a clean slate and move forward in peace and in righteousness, just simply turn back. And that's all you have to do. No baptism required. That's all the Most High said. Turn back from your wicked way. That's it. So if you've done these wickedness, turn back. Do it no more. Move forward in righteousness. Give the Most High praise and honor. All right, and that's all you've got to do. Now let's move to Deuteronomy chapter 24. And this is going to speak to a gentleman. I forgot the brother's his handle on YouTube, but I wasn't going to mention it anyway. Some people don't want to be mentioned like that. But I'm certain that the question that he asked is one that many of you may have. And that may be getting back with your ex-wife. Now, I've covered this in many lessons in times past, so you know this is a negative. This is a no-no. If your wife at any time steps out on you with another man, she is defiled. You are to give her a bill of divorcement. That's it. All right, you're never to remarry your ex-wives. These things, this is a no-no. But I can tell you this, but let's go into the scrolls. For whatever it is I present to you, I must be able to back it up via these scrolls. All right. Let's deal with this ex-wife thing. You and your old lady, as I say down here in the South, you and your wife, su esposa, you and your wife get a divorce, right? And all of a sudden you figure, you know what? Man, I've been divorced from this chick for 6 months, for a year, 2 years. She's been married or she was dealing with another man. That didn't work out. You're still in contact with her. And then you both figure, you know what? Let's rekindle the fire. Absolutely, that's a no-no. Let's turn to Deuteronomy chapter 24. And we'll start with verse 4. Actually, we'll read verse 1 through verse 4. Let's read that. Verse 1 through verse 4 of Deuteronomy chapter 24. When a man hath taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he has found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it in her hand, and send her out of his house. So when a man marries a woman and he doesn't find any favor in her, something is about this woman is not right. He doesn't want her anymore. That's what that means. So he writes her a bill of divorcement, say, look, this is over for XYZ reasons. I no longer want you to be my wife. I no longer accept the responsibilities of being your husband. Here's this bill of divorce in your hand. We're no longer married. You're no longer my wife. You're free to go be another man's wife, because officially I've divorced you. This is what you do. All right, now, verse 2. And when she is departed out of his house. So you gave this woman a bill of divorcement. She is gone. You told her that you have no desire towards her. She is no longer your wife. And you no longer will take responsibility for her like you should, since you have humbled her. Verse 2. And when she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. So once she has been divorced, she is now free to become the wife of another man. Verse 3. And if the latter husband hate her, and write her a bill of divorcement, and give it into her hand, and sendeth her out of his house, or if the latter husband die, which took her to be his wife. All right, let me explain that. So a man has a wife. He writes her a bill of divorcement. This marriage is over for X, Y, Z reasons. Give the woman a bill of divorcement. That woman now goes and marries another man. And while she's married to that man, let's say that man dies. What I can't do, I can't now go and get back with this woman. It can't be done. I've already given her a bill of divorcement. She went and married another man. That man, who is the latter husband, he died. And now all of a sudden, I want to get back with this woman after I have given her a bill of divorcement and she has married another man or have laid down with another man. I cannot rekindle any sexual relationship with that woman. This is a no-no. Verse 4. Her former husband, which sent her away, may not. Let me read that again. Her former husband, which sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife. It is a no-no. After that, she is defiled, for she has laid down with another man. For this is an abomination before the Most High, and thou shalt not cause the land to sin, which Yah thy strength giveth thee for an inheritance. So at no time are we to rekindle any relationships with our ex-wives. She is defiled. She lay down with another man or were married to another man. Once she is out of your presence, you gave her that bill of divorcement, and she decided to go have a boyfriend, a fiance, a husband, or any other man that's lay down with that woman, you can't go back with her. Nothing but this is an abomination before the Most High. All kind of curses on your head. And if you did that thing, you understand now why you have problems. Because what you're doing is an abomination before the Most High. It is not to be done. So, that should clearly explain to anyone that has listened to this whole entire lesson that we're to understand exactly what adultery is. Okay, adultery. Most people think if a man just goes and lies down with another woman, that's adultery. No. First of all, you have to ask a few questions. The married man, did he lay down with a married woman? If he did that, then they both committed adultery. That's punishable by death. Now, if that married man lied down with a woman that was single, she was not engaged, she was a single woman, there's nothing wrong with that. He just is now responsible for that woman all of her days. And also, his first wife is to know about that woman. She is not to be a secret. All right? That is to keep the lies, the deception, and everything out of the house of Israel. So if you're going to take a second wife, your first wife better know about this woman or who this woman is. And that second wife better know about your first wife and who she is. Simple as that. In the days of old, we had more than one wife. And in the latter days, we will have more than one wife when we return back onto the land. Now, somehow our enemies have taught us that, well, you know, what a man can do, a woman can do, and what a woman can do, a man can do, and that women are equal to men. That's negative. So some women may feel that they can go ahead and lay down with another man other than their husband. But we've just read that this is a no-no. Can't be done. Once she does that, she is defiled. In other words, all of your value is gone. So as a woman, you're not to do this thing. It devalues you. Not to mention, there should be no whores of the daughters of Israel. When you start laying down with multiple men, this encourages whoredom, turns the whole land to whoredom. Our women are not to be whores. And if we're going to be running through our women, that encourages whoredom. That's why we're not to do it. All right. As it pertains to a lesson such as this, we have it's within our culture in many of the many lands where we live that a man is to be pimping the women or running through the women or have 5 and 6 women or having 5 or 6 babies that he's not responsible to. And somehow the man that can pull the most women or run through most women, somehow he's held up as some kind of a some kind of a standard. This is the man that's going contrary to the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, precepts. This is what we celebrate. Back in the day, there was a brother by the name of Billy Paul, right? Now, I always liked this song but I never understood it till I really one day listened to the words of this song. Me and Mrs. Jones, we've got a thing going on. Me and Mrs. Jones. Y'all heard the song. I can't sing, so I'm not going to try to pull that note for you and blow your eardrums out. But it's a song highlighting the wickedness of laying down with another man's wife. And that's a very popular song. A lot of people like it. Now, can you imagine playing that song in the midst of the house of Israel in the days of old? You'd be a dead man. Or even trying to cause anyone to listen to that. You wouldn't even think of it. But if you listen to our music carefully and you understand this law, you will see that we are a people that we celebrate all things vile. And that's why we are in the midst of these nations getting our heads busted on a daily basis. All the songs that are hits, full of perversion. Most High says, keep far from me, perverse lips. Keep perverse lips far from me. But you love all the songs with a cuss. Most High speaks about no whoredoms in the midst of us. The man that's a whore running through our women, that's the man we celebrate. These are problems. And this is why we are in the mess that we are in. The things that we adore, the things that we celebrate, the things that we champion, and the things that we lift up in high esteem, these are things that are in direct opposition to the Most High's law. So once we analyze this thing, we're going to change who we're dealing with. We're going to change the type of music we listen to. We change the type of foods we eat. We just start changing everything around us as we turn to Torah. And then you will see that your life will get a whole lot easier. This thing is common sense. Just start looking at past generations, past behaviors, this current generation, this current behavior, and watch how the Most High has punished from back then to now those who are walking in direct opposition to him. Just step back, take his law, and pick anyone that you know and put them up against the law. That includes yourself. And you will see if they're walking in opposition, you will see where they're having these troubles and these hardships. And if that person happened to be you, once again, simply turn back. That is all the Most High asked, that we would consider our ways and our doings and make them good. Now, the only way that we can consider our ways and our doings, we first must have something by which to compare it. All right? So we take our actions, our ways, our deeds, our thoughts. We take all of these things and we measure ourselves up against the ultimate measuring stick, and that is the law. And when we see where we are in transgression, we simply ask for forgiveness, and then we will do that thing no more, and we simply turn back. And that is how we become healed. All right? Peace, Israel, and Yah bless. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. I haven't done a lesson in about 3 weeks, but I was actually changing out a filter, and some of the green material from the filter actually got in my right eye right here. I was walking around looking like a one-eyed cyclops for about 2 weeks. It's been hard to sleep, etc. But a doctor, finally I was able to make an appointment, and the doctor got out some of the debris that was in my eye, and it's been in there for 2 weeks. It's been uncomfortable, painful, and hard to see. Sensitive to light, etc. But the doctor removed the debris on Friday. I'm in good health. All is well, and therefore I'm able to come before you and present this lesson. I hope this lesson has been helpful to someone. Uh, and if you know anyone that's taking part in these whorish, abominable behaviors and customs, pull them aside and talk to them and let them know where they're incorrect. And if they don't believe you, take them in the scrolls and show it to them. But what you're not to do, you're not to be a party to this. You're not to know a man that's doing this wickedness, doing this unrighteousness, or to know a woman that's doing this wickedness, doing this unrighteousness, and you turn a blind eye like you don't see or you don't hear this thing, and you don't correct it. This is where you start cutting them off. You can't walk in righteousness with the Most High and be holding on to the hand of a man that's in wickedness or a woman that's in wickedness. Can't be done. Two cannot walk together lest they be agreed. So if you're going to walk with the Most High, when you see your brother over here doing something that's incorrect, you're going to have to tell him about it. He might not like it, but it's your job to tell him. And maybe he may consider his ways and his doing and save his own soul. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy laws are truth. Peace and Yah bless Israel, and peace and Yah bless to the stranger that is of a contrite spirit, that will take a hold of the Most High's laws and do them. Peace, Israel, and Yah bless.